There's just something so oral about driving an EV. You get this whee, whee. Welcome back to another video, and today we are testing out the brand new Mercedes-Benz EQA, the baby EV from Mercedes-Benz. I've been driving in absolute silence. I've been good to the earth. I've used no combustion fuels. Although people will keep saying, yeah, but in order to run your EV, you need Eskom to be burning fuel and all of that to be able to produce your electricity. But when you have load shedding and Eskom isn't giving you electricity, they aren't actually burning any fuel. So maybe we are doing something good by driving these cars. But if you can get them charged through a solar station, that's even better. So this EQA is based off of the GLA, but all they've done is remove everything to do with the combustion engine, and they've included everything to do with EV. So you've got batteries, you've got an electric motor, you've got a drivetrain to support all of that, and you've got all of the smart tech to be able to make this EV as amazing and as cool as what it is. And the great thing about driving an EV is that you've got all of your power and torque at your right foot at any given time. So when you put your foot down, it goes. There's no waiting for engines, there's no waiting for turbos to spool, nothing. It just goes. So speaking of it just going, this EV is powered by a 140 kilowatts and 375 Newton meter motor, mated to a 66 kilowatt hour battery. So it's not the most impressive stats from an EV point of view when you look at what there is available from EVs. But when you look at what this car is, it's an EQA. It's your entry level into the EV game from a Mercedes-Benz point of view. And even from an EV market point of view in South Africa, there aren't a lot of other EVs around that are this size, small and compact. So it could be a good consideration if you are looking at getting into the EV space. This is a front wheel drive car, so your electric motor is mounted onto the front axle, spinning those wheels only. You don't have the 4MATIC system, unfortunately, but you do get that in the other EQs. This one's bigger, brother and sisters. And thanks to the 66 kilowatt hour battery, you should get a range of about 370 kilometers off of a full charge. Mercedes-Benz do say 400 kilometers on the site and the things that they claim. But when I did fill this at Santon recently, it gave me a full kilometer range of about 370 odd. So I think, again, depending on your driving, depending on your environment, where you're going, if you're going around town, open roads and all that, it has a massive effect on it, even the weather. So what's pretty cool is that if you go onto the Merc website, you can actually see how much range you could potentially have available. So there's a cool slider that if you swipe it between driving on country roads or in suburban areas, cities and highways, the weather outside and all of that, it actually gives you a predicted range that you can get out of the car. But in order to get the most out of your battery, this car does have a regen system too. So for me, that's whenever I drive an EV, that's the first thing that I switch on, because I think it's one of the coolest feelings, because it's not something that you get from a normal combustion car. So what it means is that you can drive with one pedal. So when you are accelerating, you go forward, but then when you take your foot off of the accelerator, the car kind of brakes itself, because the motor is then working in reverse. So it's slowing you down, but at the same time, it's recouping that energy and putting it straight back into the battery for you. But if the feeling of regen isn't for you and you prefer a normal driving experience, then you can use the pedals. So as I've said, this is based off of a GLA. So that steering wheel has pedals, and you would normally change the gears with those. But because this is an electric motor, you don't have gears. So what they've now enabled these pedals to do is allow you to switch between the regen braking and generic driving. So at the moment, when I click the plus pedal, I put it into normal driving. So when I take my foot off of the accelerator, the car kind of slows down like it normally would. But if I use the minus, the regen braking kicks in and I slow down to it would be to a stop, but I'm currently going downhill. But you get the idea. Another cool system that they built into this car is the thermal architecture. So the battery system and the motors produce a lot of heat. So in order to cool those batteries down and that sort of thing, they pull that heat away from that system and push it into the car. So when you are wanting to heat up your system here, you generally would use a lot of battery power to do that. But instead, the car's warming itself up. So it's taking heat that it would have normally made anyway and instead of wasting it and dumping it out of the car, they're using it to heat up the car. So again, you're using less of your battery power and more of what's being produced naturally. And then from a safety point of view, you can get the full plethora of safety systems here too. You can get your lane keep assist, your lane departure, your forward collision warning, adaptive cruise control, and all that sort of thing. I mean, it's an EV, it's a smart car. It needs to be doing all of those things. I've also got blind spot monitoring here, a reverse camera with park sensors, but I don't have a 360 camera system, although I think that is something that you can spec. And then onto the drive quality, it's a really nice drive. You do have additional weight in the car because of all the batteries, so it does feel a little bit more planted into the ground. There's not a lot of swaying going on, so it feels quite sporty too, but they fitted this with 20-inch wheels, so they're not very forgiving when going over bumps and humps and things like that, so you do tend to feel that shudder through the cabin quite often, but hey, they look damn cool. And then the driving position is also quite comfortable. Your steering wheel, again, it's based off of a GLA, so it's comfortable. You've got everything you need around you. You've got quick access to your climate control down here. They have kept it separate, so you don't have to dig through your infotainment to be able to access those settings and things like that. But obviously your settings do display on the screen, but you are able to adjust and change it accordingly at the switch of a button. You've got comfortable armrests on each side here, both with soft touch materials and padding, so your elbows are living their best life. There's just something so oral about driving an EV. You get this whee. It's so futuristic, it's so cool, man. So you do obviously miss the rumble and grumble of a combustion engine, but I think this is just a different driving experience. So you're not here to expect those sort of sounds. You have to take in everything that's an EV. So, you know, the instant torque, the quietness, the heavier planted vehicle because of the battery. So yeah, it's a really enjoyable driving experience. And then continuing with a look around the inside of the cabin, it's obviously still a Mercedes-Benz. So you've got soft touch materials all over. And because it's an EV, you've got man-made leather. So this isn't traditional cowhide that you've got around the cabin here. It's man-made, so you're staying with the EV theme of trying to save the earth and save the planet. So what you're sitting on is man-made leather. It's comfortable. I didn't think that it was man-made, and then I was led to believe that it was. So that's a good sign. But it is all over the cabin, across your dash, across the fronts of your doors here, on the center console and on the armrests, all the way into the back too, so the back doors, the back seats, and everything like that. You also have this black material across the entire of the cabin, so it does make it nice and dark and premium and luxury inside here, which is quite cool. And because it's quite dark, they've also given you a panoramic sunroof, so it takes up almost the entire length of the roof here, so there's heaps of light that comes in, and if you need to close it, just swipe the button. And again, because it's a Mercedes-Benz, you've got ambient lighting, the best in the game. I'll advocate for it every day. So you've got the same color systems and patterns that you would have in all of the other cars. So if you aren't going for the multi-colors, you can also choose from 64 individual colors to find the perfect hue for you. The seats that I'm currently in here are all manual, so I have to adjust moving it forward, backwards, up and down, the backrest and all of that. So these aren't automated, but I'm pretty sure that you can actually spec it with electric seats with programmed functions and all of that, which, you know, when you're driving Mercedes-Benz, that's what you want. And then continuing with a look around the dasher, you've also got these turbine-like vents that people have become familiar with to find in Mercedes-Benz, which are really cool. I really like these. It's probably one of my favorite sets of aircon vents that you can get in a car. Well, if I could have a favorite, these are them. And especially with the ambient lighting, how it shines through them, it really looks cool at night. And in front of me, I've got two 10-inch displays. I've got one for my infotainment and I've got one for the driver's display. When looking at the infotainment here, you've got access to your maps, your settings, everything from your ambient lighting and your comfort. There's heaps of stuff that you can do through the screen on the left-hand side. You also, on the driver's side, have options to a whole bunch of different themes. So from your sports and standard and a whole bunch of others. It's quite cool, so you can change this and make it quite personalized to you as a person and a driver. And in order to navigate through your infotainment, you can either do it through the touchscreen, or you can do it through this pretty cool touchpad down here with a whole bunch of quick access buttons too. So you can quickly get access to your cameras, your vehicle settings, as well as your maps and radio and media. You've got your volume control as well. So quick access to your volume instead of having to try and figure it out on the screen too. So that's pretty handy. But right at the center, you have almost like a mouse pad or like a trackpad. So you can navigate through the different options on your screen simply by swiping your fingers and clicking it. So that's quite cool. So you can also do that on this multifunction steering wheel too. You've got buttons on the left hand side here to do your infotainment, your home screen, with a little mouse, censored mouse cursor, if you want to call it that. So by flicking your thumb across this, it moves to the different functions on the screen here too. So you can access your infotainment through the steering wheel down here at the bottom, or because it's got phone mirroring, you can also just connect Apple CarPlay and enjoy everything from your phone. And because you're driving an EV, you're driving the future, you should have futuristic settings and things to look at. So there is a specific EV function that you can connect to here on the screen, and it's pretty handy because you can check all of your things to do with the battery. So you can check your consumption rate, you can see where your power is coming from at any given time. Are you charging the battery? Are you regenning the battery? Are you putting power back into it? Are you using battery power? What else is nice is that you can actually search for your closest charging point. So there's a whole bunch of ones that pop up here. It is connected now, so it'll pick up any of your closest charging points that you can, which is quite handy. You can also plan routes, so you can plan how long you're going to need to get there, your charging points in between, and all of that is also displayed on your dash in the front here. So at any given time you can see how much power you're using when accelerating, and if you take your foot off the accelerator, it shows that the needle is now in the regen phase, so it shows that you're charging the batteries, which is quite cool. So again, a very different visual driving experience when it comes to an EV. It's not your traditional combustion engine. So yeah, it's a lot of fun to play with too. With it being a Mercedes-Benz, you also have voice assistance. So by simply saying, "Hey Mercedes,
how can I help?
Please will you close the sunroof blind?"
I'm closing the roller sun blind on the sliding sunroof.
But I need light in here. So yeah, there's a couple of things that you can do with the voice assistant, so it is quite handy, but I do find it questioning a lot of the things that I say. "Hey Mercedes,
how can I help?
Please open up the driver window."
I'm sorry. Can you say that again, please?
"Please open up the driver's window."
I'm sorry, but I can't help you with it right now.
But it doesn't often understand the requests I make. But hey, maybe it's a South African accent, who knows? Down in the center console, just above your quick action buttons too, you do have a little bit of storage. And if you open that up, you've got 2 cup holders as well as wireless charging for your phone. And then onto some other storage, you do have a glove box too, which is actually quite big, with a little shelf to plonk some extra additional things as well. The door bins are also really nicely sized, so you can fit a nice childish water bottle in there if you need, and they're decently sized in the back too. And then underneath my left arm, I've got this comfy armrest that opens up with quite a nice big cavity down here too, with some additional USB-C charging points. Room in the back is also surprisingly good. I'm quite tall and I do fit in there quite comfortably, so that's impressive. And you do have a center armrest that comes down with cup holders and a little spot to house your cell phone or tablet or anything like that. Headroom in the back is also pretty good. You do have the panoramic roof, so when it opens, it allows a little bit more space for your head, well, for my head. So yeah, I do fit pretty comfortably back there. And then there's living with an EV. So now you find yourself in a position where your battery's down, you're at about 10% remaining, you need to go find a charger. So if you are able to find a 150 kilowatt fast charger, a DC one, you should be able to get from about 10% to 80% full in about 30 minutes. And then if you find a 60 kilowatt rapid charger, you should be able to also get to that 80% capacity in about 50 minutes. And then there's your conventional wall box that you would probably have installed at home if you do own an EV. and that would probably be about an 11 kilowatt charger. So you might want to plug your car in overnight, because it could take up to, or a little bit more than, about 9 hours. But that's fine, because you've come home from work, you've plugged your car in, it's charging overnight, you wake up in the morning, you get dressed, you get into your car, your battery's full. Unless you've had a little bit of load shedding. I mean, load shedding isn't 9 hours. So regardless of if it's a 4-hour slot, a 2-hour slot, whatever it is, you're still getting a decent amount of hours to charge your car. So you're not going to wake up in the morning with a dead battery. That's just can't happen. So I wouldn't really let Eskom and load shedding affect your decision to get an EV too much. Okay, and then onto the looks of this EQA. And I must say, the EQ range really looks nice to me. You get this flat gloss black front grille up front. Obviously, you do not need the slats to let in additional air, because there's no engine that needs to be cooled down. So they've kept it quite conventional looking, but by adding the gloss black front, I think it makes it look a lot more sophisticated and sporty. You also have the LED high performance headlights, as well as this LED strip that goes across the top of the headlights, and when your lights are on, it actually goes across the whole of the front of the car. So it looks really, really cool. And then coming down the side, you've got these 20-inch optional wheels, which look really, really nice. It almost gives this car like a race car toy vibe when you're looking at it through pictures. It's really nice. The side profile is also quite cool. It's a squat, short little SUV looking car, so I don't know, it really appeals to me. And in the silver, I mean, you can't go wrong with a Mercedes-Benz in silver, can you? And then at the rear, you've also got this LED strip light that goes across the back, and when illuminated, it really makes the car look extra wide. So it gives it a lot more girth when that light is on. And yeah, what's wrong with having a girthy car from the back? The wider the better. Sorry about that. And then on to pricing. So this EQA starts at 1.16 million rand, which is a lot of money for a car. But when you look at the tech and the research and development that goes into an EV, I think it's understandable. In the long run, you might be saving some money on fuel, but that's in the very long run. But yeah, I think for the price, the car that it is, I think for the price of the car, for what the car is, the performance, the technology that you're getting, I think it's warranted. The next closest competitor to this in pricing would be the BMW iX3. It's slightly more expensive, but not far too much more expensive. So I think at the end of the day, then it comes down to, are you a Merc fan or a BMW fan? Okay, so we've now come to the end of the review, and it's time to do the GDR test. So should you get the car, should you drive the car, take it for a test drive, or should you remove it from your list of cars that you're looking at? And I would definitely go drive the car. Go see if it's the right car for you. As I've said, there are other EVs in the market that are around this price point, so I wouldn't necessarily say go and get this car, but it is a small, compact, completely EV vehicle. There aren't a lot of them out in South Africa at the moment, but I think there's a lot more coming. But we do need to watch the space, especially with the likes of Peugeot, Citroen, Kia. I think they've got a lot of plans coming up. Oh, and there's Haval with that little small Aura thing. Not sure what it is, but I know that that's probably coming, and that's probably going to be a fraction of the cost of what this is. So I would go ahead and drive it. Go see if you enjoy the EV life. Are you willing to always want to go charge the car, which I think isn't a massive hassle, because if you're going shopping, you just plug it in. You also get preferential parking right up front. Forgot to mention that. So yeah, go drive the car, go enjoy it. So yeah, thanks for watching. And if you enjoyed this review, please will you drop a like and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. And drop a comment if you've got any ideas, or if you want me to review any other cars in the future. So until then, cheers.